town in Karnataka. It's a school run for the farmers' children. So therefore, there is no other place to speak on this subject other than speaking here, surrounded by these children. Food, farm and farmers. There is a statement where people used to speak Naukri Adham, Vyapar Madhyam and Sheti Uttam. It means that working was considered as the lowest. Doing business was considered as middle. And farming was considered as highest. Now this saying has remained only saying, hardly anybody executes it. They may quote it sometime, but it has gone other way around. People sell their farm to get a good degree so that they can become naukar. On the other hand, many people, like Srila Prabhupada also mentioned, he said many times people would come from a village to work in the city, and they would collect enough money to buy a small piece of land in their village so that they could do some farming. So job was used for buying land. Now land is used for buying a job. Right? In the Bhagavad Gita, why this happened? We'll study little history about farming. Especially we are talking about Bharat. Because every place, every country has a different background for farming. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains Krishi Goraksha Vanijam Vaishya Karma Swabhavajam. What is born out of Vaishya? The Vaishya brings forth Krishi. Krishi means farming. Goraksha means he is also Gopala. And third is Vanijam. Vanijam means commerce. Unfortunately, at some point of time, Krishi became separated from Goraksha. Krishi separated from Vanijya, commerce. In fact, nowadays the business people have nothing to do with farmers. Imagine, if you just contemplate and study whatever the business people sell, the most important items during the COVID, what was sold, what was kept open everywhere, is the essential things what people needed. And all those essential things coming from farmers only. But if you go and talk to the shopkeepers, you talk to the business people, talk to the children of the business people, they have no connection to the farmers. Right? And the farmers have no connection to the business people. So the gap between the farmer and the commerce became so much huge that they don't recognize each other. Right? Generally, how it was, the farmer were also the cow protectors and they were also business people. If you study in Krishna's time in Vrindavan, contemplate and study properly, Krishna and Balaram represents Goraksha and farming. Balaramji represents farming, Krishna represents cow protection. And Nanda Maharaj would come to Mathura. The people of Nanda Maharaj, the Brajvasis would come to Mathura. They would sell their goods. directly to the people who needed in Mathura. So they were Krishi, they were doing Goraksha, and they were also doing Vanijam. Right? And because of such a gap, the producer hardly earns anything. And the person who is doing commerce, business, he earns, you can't imagine only what do they earn. Like I remember talking to one friend who did his PhD specifically in regards to food industry only. After oil, after oil, the second largest commodity which is sold in the market is coffee. Right? After crude oil, the largest growth or selling is happening of a coffee industry. And he was explaining, if you say 1:2,000 rupees, that is the gap. The farmer will get 1 rupees and the consumer who is buying it, he'll buy it for 2,000 times higher. Imagine so many middlemen, and therefore when the gap increases and you work, you decide, okay, I'll make more money by being a naukar rather than being a farmer. Naukri uttam, vyapar madhyam, and kheti becomes adham. Right? Interestingly, again you go back to the history, even Aurangzeb for that matter, we don't have any sympathy for him. Right? But even Aurangzeb, even if he had actually forcing jizya tax against the Hindus, right, which was brutal, which was cruel, which was insensitive, which was a plan to convert, right, the taxation would not go more than 1/6 for the farmers and maybe 10-12% jizya tax. Right, 1/6. Maximum it went up to 20%. Now study so-called refined Britishers, right, whom recently the Pappu said that everybody should learn English, and then he was making the politics out of that also, without even realizing when you push English in a place where the teachers are also not trained, where the place the farmers are living, you destroy their confidence. Only because of that language, the number of people who get benefited by speaking in English, doing business in English, is very less. Yes, people should learn English because it's the language of the market. But to make that as the foundational principle of your life is a very destructive and very superiority complex idea. Right? So the Britishers, when they came to India, you should study. The farmer was giving more than 50% tax. You please study book written by Will Durant on a case for India. The ladies, the wives of the farmer, they used to work in the farmland also, and sometimes they had to place their small children, and to keep them quiet, they would give them opium, a drug. Not they wanted to make them drug addict. There was this lady who wrote this book called as Mother India. Obnoxious, right? I've only heard about it. I would never read it because she takes one perspective of the story and slanders Indian women thinking that they don't know how to be a mother. Or you made them like that by exploiting, destroying, taking away their resources. Nobody in the entire creation would ever charge that kind of taxation from them. And when you buy things from them, the market would come down. Whenever the British agent would buy, the value of the product was very less. Once the buying program was over, then the market rate would increase, right? Imagine while selling, there was no profit. After selling, 50% of your profit is taken away by them as a tax, right? And there was such a problem for them, working, overworking. So interestingly, what happened eventually, a work of a farmer became a tragedy for somebody to be a farmer. And eventually some kind of bad words started coming, right? अरे ये तो क्या भैंस चराता है, ये तो क्या गाय चराता है, ये तो क्या गधों को लेकर जाता है. So consciously, unconsciously, you started undermining what is glorified by Krishna. कृषि गोरक्षा. गोरक्षा इस शब्द को भैंस चराने वाला, गाय चराने वाले का गाली बन गया. And therefore, as far as you can go away from this, these, we can't call them as animals, the family members of the farmer was considered as a tragedy. Therefore, if you consciously stay in India, our people go with great pride carrying a dog in their hand for a morning walk, keeping a dog in their house, right? But you will never see them patting on the back of the cow on a day-to-day basis. Maybe as a ritual during their birthday, some very pious, very few Hindus may go to a distant goshala, feed them some jaggery, touch as away from the cow and walk from there, right? So how will you not become poor? How will you not feel psychologically unfortunate for being a farmer? Please understand this. Therefore, Will Duranto, defending the people of India, he said, "Hey lady," one who wrote that book on Mother India, "Hey lady, have you ever thought what this made them to do like this? Because the way they were treated."
Roji, we're not able to hear you.
So disturbing them also. Able to hear?
Yes, now it's fine.
Yeah, yeah. You can imagine when you see this happening. So then slowly, the modern education became the greatest need for everybody. Another interesting principle what happened was, after the independence of India, those people who were involved in making policies, some of them, the rich farmers, the landholders, they became politicians. Kind of policies, the income tax laws, these are very friendly to rich farmers. You make crores of rupees, but how much tax do you pay? You don't pay. And who are these rich farmers? These are the politicians who take their wealth and make it into farming wealth, and then
Prabhuji, we are not able to hear you.
They will fight for the so-called farmers' right, which are never benefited to the farmers. They are farming background, 10 acres, 8 acres, but if you see them, they have a smile on their face, but they are not necessarily politician farmers. It is a hard work, day in, day out. And therefore, in the Bhagavatam, if you study carefully, Lord Sri Krishna, where does he come? When he came 5,000 years ago, basically, he chose to be born in a Kshatriya family, but walked into the family of the Gorakshak and farmers and milk sellers. Right. And what was our Kamsa doing? Interestingly, it is explained. Interestingly, what it is explained that our Kamsa, basically, our means because he's part of this country only, right? Kamsa, what would he do? He basically would take fresh fruits and convert that into liquor. The Dhenukasur, what was he protecting? He was protecting the fruit orchard. Rather than giving that fresh fruits to people, the fruits were collected, turned into a liquor. The entire sugarcane industry, right? Yesterday, this farmer's children was studying in this school, in this Vidya Vrindaranya Gurukul, right? They were planning to make sugar candy because in the winter, this khadi shakkar, kallu sakkare, right? The way they make it, khadi shakkar, is a very interesting process. You have to have a forest lady finger. You collect that stick and put it in the water, it becomes very sticky. And when you start boiling the sugarcane juice and you start putting this liquid, forest, the bhendi, uska jo juice hota hai, and it takes away all the dirt starts coming out. And you keep boiling it when 80% where it is about to turn into jaggery, you put it in the clay pot with ropes or a thread hanging around, and then it starts becoming a crystal. That is how the khadi shakkar is made. Jaggery is very hot, but khadi shakkar is very cooling. Right? Now, all these kind of realities are not practiced because why should I do it? It is such inconvenient. And therefore, what are we eating? We are not eating fresh fruit. There is no connection between the farmer and the consumer. I always ask this question to children whenever I go to school. I ask them, okay, when your mother or your sister, for that matter, for some people it is their wife, when they cook, what do? We appreciate the chef, we appreciate the cook, we appreciate the shop where you got the best kind of quality material, whether it is rice, whether it is jaggery, whether it is sugar, whether it is ghee, whatever it is. What do? We appreciate the chef. Wow, kya maja aa gaya. And our appreciation does not go beyond the chef only. The farmer is non-existent in our appreciation card. उसके साथ बातें नहीं होती है, उसका स्मरण भी नहीं होता है, उसका चिंतन भी नहीं होता है, right? And if that is the reality, then what will happen? Naturally, less and less number will do farming, and more number of people will consume. We have a person who is working in IIM as a professor, and he did a research on food security. What will be the condition in 2050? What kind of food problem we will face? And what they recognized, this was an international, research. He was part of the UN very dharmic person, and he was explaining the solution for food security is there with India. But what do? We do not give that kind of attention to the farmers. The Indian society, our Indian society basically discourages to such an extent two class of people. One is the farmer and second is the teacher. इन दोनों के प्रति किसी प्रकार का भी कॉन्शियस अनकॉन्शियस अप्रिशिएशन नहीं है, right? And therefore when we do celebration, during the marriage celebration, during the spiritual celebration, we basically pluck the trees, right? We extract limitless water and we pay for it. A paper money is paid for. And where does that money go generally? The money goes more to the business people who are separated from the farmers. As I gave the ratio, if the coffee ratio, a farmer will get 1% as against the businessman getting 2000%. Gap देखो कितना बड़ा है, right? If the gap is so large, so huge, the farmer becomes non-existent species, right? And the modern school, what do? The modern schools, when the farmers go to school, now the farmer's body, you can't expect their body to be shining because they will not use the talcum powder. They will not use different kind of creams. They will use oil. Their body is rugged. There is a prana, there is jaan, there is pran in the body. You need to have a different appreciation for their style of body. But they're darkish because they're working in the sun. Their skin is dry. Their skin is basically sometimes bleeding because of during in the water season, right? Unke andar that saundarya what we see in the mall, in the movie theater does not exist, right? So again, the consciously or unconsciously, we have made an affirmation, संकल्प कर दिया है, खेती गरीबों के लिए, बेचारा किसान है. I would never want my children. I remember talking to one, again, educated guy turning back to his farmland. He's from Bangalore. He was doing his PhD. But his father brought his children from the village with this conscious understanding that my children should never ever go close to the farmland. Nahi chahiye. I don't want my children to be the farmers. Even remotely, they should not develop any attraction for farming. Therefore, he brought them to Bangalore city, got them educated. One went to America, one is almost in America, working in India, and other was studying properly, doing his PhD. So धीरे धीरे क्या होने वाला था, खेती समाप्त होने वाला था. Eventually they would sell it to some big builder and then lose your land and feel, oh, once upon a time, my parents were kind of farming. If that is appreciated, then you will tell. But fortunately, what happened? One of the son went back to his village. From being PhD, became a farmer, and if you talk to him, it was not an easy journey. His very parents did not appreciate it. His own relatives did not appreciate it. Well, what is happening to you? Why are you doing like this? जैसे कि वो terrorist बन गया. Socho, from where, it started with the Britishers undermining the caring mother as if they don't know how to care for the mother. That is the book which talks about Mother India. That stayed with the people. The concept of Mother India stayed. What Bill Duranto said, that did not stay. Businessmen increased further gap where the farmer was making very less. And therefore, interesting in the Bhagavatam, What would Krishna do regularly? On a regular interval, if you study carefully, most of his resources, अपने काफी resources को he would use for planting the trees regularly. Now, just contemplate, meditate upon, आपने आपके जीवन में कितने पेड़ खुद लगाए. क्रिसमस ट्री रखा हुआ अपने घर पे. It's such a shameless act Hindus do. They bring a Christmas tree which is very commercial, which has nothing ecological friendly. Brain has totally lost. Right? But when it comes to Tulsi, Tulsi has disappeared. Christmas tree comes. But how many trees you have sponsored to be planted in the farmland? नहीं किया है. खींचा हुआ है उधर से डेकोरेशन करने के लिए, शादी के लिए, पूजा के लिए, फिर बर्थडे के लिए या फिर अदर फेस्टिवल्स के लिए, लेकिन प्लांट नहीं किया. And very Lord Krishna regularly would plant the trees. And second activities Krishna would do was that he would always use his resources to excavating well. कुआं को खोदने के लिए भगवान कितने सारे अपने धन का उपयोग किया करते थे. Imagine when the entire society does not do, the number of people is increasing. We make swimming pool, but not the well. Right? We plant a garden decorative tree which do not produce anything. वो केवल देखने के लिए है, जैसे शव का श्रृंगार होता है ना, उसी प्रकार से. Right? When you decorate a dead body, there is no productivity there. So similarly, those trees who cannot offer any fruits, vegetable, right, even shade properly, वो आपके जगह को ऑक्युपाई कर देता है. Another interesting point. India is 1/3 of America, right, with a tribal population. If America is 30, 35, India is 130, almost 3 times more, right? And 3 times less in size. And China's population is, yes, little, almost same like India. Land is much, much larger than India. But you know what is the advantage for the Indian country? You can see this. Guru Murti ji says, you can Google also. The cultivable land in India is much higher than China and America. We are 1/3 of America, but cultivable land is much larger than America, than China also. America produces 1 crop a year. China, some part of its land can produce 2 crops a year. But India's land, the land of Bharat, large part of India's land can produce certainly 2 crops, but there is much greater opportunity where we can produce 3 crops in a year. But where do we invest our money? We invest our time, energy in discussing about बेशरम गाना सही या गलत है, उसकी चर्चा होती है. Right? For the people who produce the movie, it doesn't matter whether people are speaking for it or people are speaking against it. It is there in the market. It is there. And even to make that cloth, whatever cloth that lady is wearing, born in a, for that cloth, you need a farmer. उसके लिए भी किसान की आवश्यकता होती है, क्योंकि कॉटन कहाँ से आते हैं? किसान से ही आता है. Right? So there is no proper encouragement. Forget the government. Forget the government. Who are the government? We are the government. Forget the government. Even the people, for that matter, They would choose to sponsor a cricketer than to sponsor 10 distant farmers who are their relatives only. चलो आपके लिए मैं कुआं खोद के देता हूं, ये आप उसके लिए कुआं नहीं खोद के दे रहे हो, आपके पुण्य कर्म को खोद रहे हो. Right? Now in the Ramayana, very interesting point is explained. We are talking principle, right? To make us aware, make us conscious. Right? If you're driving somewhere, if you find a farmer, go and buy a produce from there only directly. So that way what happens, all the middlemen are basically, you don't want to destroy them. Middlemen are reduced and you develop a communication, some kind of connection with the farmer. Right? So therefore, what was the system? If you read in the Ramayana, in the Bala Kanda, there is a description of Ayodhya. And based upon such a description, Chanakya Pandit in Artha Shastra, if you study, very sensitive in this regard. What was that sensitivity? So there were two kinds of farming. One was Deva Matraka and other was Nadi Matraka. Deva Matraka means you are completely depending upon rains. Nadi Matraka means you are depending upon stored water. हाँ, जो बारिश का पानी है, the water which is used from the rains, the grains are simply unbelievable. उसका स्वाद अलग ही होता है. बारिश से अगर आप पीनट्स ग्रो करोगे और स्टोर्ड वाटर से पीनट को ग्रो करोगे, बहुत बड़ा अंतर होता है, अमृत तुल्य होता है. But still, what they would do, that was a special crop, but they would also store water. यानी कि इसलिए हमारे में जो पाइटी के साथ में ना एक इतना बड़ा विज्ञान भी था. Some spiritual activities are purely spiritual, but most of the rituals were so designed, it will take care of your atma, it will take care of your intellect, it will take care of your your social connection also. Right? For example, when there is a Deva Matraka and Nadi Matraka, canals are there, tanks are there, wells are there. And why these canals, tanks and wells were built? Because of piety also. अरे, I was told that I should excavate a well. तो आपने कुआं खोदा, उसका परिणाम क्या हो गया? एक किसान के लिए मदद हो गया, गांव के लोगों के लिए मदद हो गया. Right? And because of your making a water body, that part of the land became surcharged. And therefore, interestingly, if you study, when Dasharath Maharaj, when there was a drought for 12 years, 12 साल के लिए drought हो गया, 12 साल तक drought क्या कर रहे थे? Why the scriptures many times talk about 12 years drought, 12 years drought? तो इसमें अर्थशास्त्र में उदाहरण दिया हुआ है, सक्षम राजा और सक्षम प्रजा अपने खेती में और अपने पानी के स्टोरेज को 12 साल तक, for 12 years they could store it. 5 years drought, it wouldn't matter to you. 6 years drought, it wouldn't matter to you. 7-year drought, it wouldn't matter to you. Yes, there would be a concern. They would start working on, something we must be cause the anger to the devatas, something अपने पास कुछ गड़बड़ हुआ है. They would start fearing something is going wrong, but that would not disrupt the society. Right? Imagine what kind of thought process they had and how that was managed. Very simple: planting the trees, excavating the well, building the ponds. If you go to Shivaji Maharaj's fort, people should, they go to this place, that place. How many people do ever go to the forts of Shivaji Maharaj, which are there close to Mumbai? They are close to Pune, they are close to Kolhapur, they are close to Satara, they are close to Sindhudurg. In Maharashtra and some part of Karnataka, you will find 350 forts. And what is the beauty of these forts? The beauty of these forts, the forts were not built because they are good to look at. They were built in such a place, where there was a storage of water. There was a storage of water. If you go to the, one of the, where is that? Some of the Johar took place in Rajasthan. There are these huge forts in the mountain. Now also, the water from the fort is supplied to the town. The Kalyani Pushkarani near Melukote, built by Sripad Ramanujacharya, is providing water to large number of people. And you see how interestingly our people were functioning. And that was benefiting the farmer. And the farmer had no problem to share his resources with people to grow nicely, happily, right? क्यों? क्योंकि वो केवल किसान नहीं था, वो अन्नदाता था. Right? He was called as Annadata. He has been basically connected close to what? He was connected close to the personality of Godhead, representation of personality of Godhead. In 2002, there was a historian, economical historian, Galbraith came to India. Okay. In 1957, this had happened. Long back he had come. And he had explained, the Galbraith had explained that India was a functioning anarchy. So one of the reporter remembered he had said like that when he came to India, they asked this question, Mr. Galbraith, he was an economist, he wrote a book on history of economics. Right, Paul Bhairog wrote one and Galbraith wrote one. So they asked him, sir, you said that India is a functioning anarchy. What is it? Then he said, no, you did not hear me properly. He said, I never said about the Indian society. He said, I said about Indian system, the government. No, he said the government is your creation caused by the British system, and the society is our creation, means the families. समाज को परिवार ने बनाया है और सरकार को so called educated people have done. And very interesting, if you study carefully the Indian constitution, they work very hard, no doubt. You just Google and see where did they derive inspiration to write Indian constitution. Unfortunately, there is nothing local in the constitution. It is derived from France. It is derived from Russia. It is derived from America. It is derived from Ireland. It is derived from Switzerland. It is derived from America. यानी कि सब जगह से डिराइव किया हुआ है. क्या ये देश पूरा मरा हुआ था, सोया हुआ था, मूर्छित अवस्था में था, कुछ भी अच्छा नहीं था इसमें क्या, to derive something, right? So therefore his point was, no, the society is functioning, right? The society is functioning, but the systems are very, very disruptive and breaking the society. And where do you break the society? The society breaks when your food habits are completely changed. आप हमारे बच्चों को देखो, हमारे अडल्ट को देखो, गरम खाना, hot food will become more and more and more isolated. The children would prefer eating junk food rather than eating hot food. जब आप मॉल से खाना खा रहे हो तो आपको किसान के प्रति घृणा के बढ़कर क्या आ सकता है? निग्लेक्ट तो मिनिमम निग्लेक्ट तो आएगा ही. Therefore, how many people? Yes, the soldier still has the pride, which they deserve to have, because they are there, fighters, warriors. परंतु एक किसान है, उसको कहाँ मिलता है? कितने बच्चे अपने बाप को बोल सकते कि मेरा बाप किसान है? Unless he's a politician who has got hundreds acres of land, he makes all kinds of money from so kind different kind of sources. But if somebody has 4 acres land, 5 acres of land, and is a farmer selling milk, doing some business, doing some farming, there is that pride does not exist. Huh? So therefore, when we celebrate Farmers' Day, which most people don't even know, but if you come, live in the farm, not in the retreat, वो अलग समय के लिए जाओ. We can go to the retreat. But actually going and staying a new way, what can we do? The question is raised. What can we do? Yes, we can do many things. We can come and stay with the farmers and see, walk with them, collect some sugar cane, crush, eat the fresh food. जो अगर आप भाकरी इधर रोटी जो बनाते हैं बच्चे, एक यहाँ के old ladies, I posted on my Instagram, these old ladies make chapatis. Just other 3 days back, some Bombay people were going through. They got to know that I'm here. They said, can we come because we are going to Badami, the caves of Badami. I said, yeah, you can come here. They came and they ate the roti. There is a special kind of Indian wheat called as khapli wheat. कितने लोग जानते हैं? बहुत लोग जानते नहीं उसको. खपली गहू कितने लोग जानते हैं? नहीं जानते. In Kannada it is called as jabe godi. I also didn't know a few years ago. I don't eat wheat, right? I eat only खपली गहू. तो मैंने यहाँ के फार्मर को पूछा अंतर क्या है दोनों के बीच में? What is the difference between खपली गेहूं and the typical wheat what people consume? No? क्योंकि दिखने में वैसा ही लगता है, उसका टेस्ट वैसा है, लेकिन उसका जो टेक्सचर बहुत अलग है. Less than 2% gluten in खपली. It is not heat producing, क्योंकि भारत ट्रॉपिकल कंट्री है. तो प्रकृति ने क्या किया है, देखो कितना महत्वपूर्ण है. आप जो गेहूं खाते हो ना, उसको पैडी नहीं होता. It doesn't have a husk. Directly it grows as a wheat only, right? But a khapli गेहूं, it is exactly like a rice for that matter. उसके ऊपर पैडी होती है, उस पैडी को निकालना पड़ता है, लंबा होता है, उसका प्रोसेस थोड़ा लंबा है, लेकिन जो स्वाद, I fear to go to the kitchen क्योंकि ज्यादा खा लेता हूं. इतना स्वादिष्ट बनता है. You can just eat the roti. इतना पतला बनाते हो लोग. And even the ज्वारी का रोटी है. Where will you get? And this old ladies, the way they cook it, even if you give thousands of rupees in a 5-star hotel, you can never experience, because एक तो fresh देते हैं और प्रेम से खिलाते हैं और चूल्हे पे भी खिलाते हैं. There are very few people. There is one person near Karzat. He has made a agricultural tourism. प्रयास किया उन्होंने, लेकिन एग्रीकल्चर टूरिज्म एक किसान नहीं बना सकता. उसको टूरिज्म के बारे में कॉन्सेप्ट मालूम ही नहीं है. I remember going to in Pennsylvania to this Amish people. Amish people, you must be in Google Amish, you'll get to know. These are a Christian community coming from Germany or for that matter Switzerland. They live a very natural life. No electricity, no telephone, no mobile phone, no vehicle. They go in their buggy. You'll find them. We had gone to visit their community. And after all, they're Europeans. Baniyagiri hai unme. If you want to visit their house, they will charge you $5. $5 चार्ज करते उनके घर में प्रवेश करने के लिए. इधर हमारे किसानों का घर, रिसेंटली आई वाज इन मिर्जापुर, कट्टा खरीदने के लिए नहीं, वहां दर्शन करने के लिए गए थे हम लोग. गंगा जी का दर्शन होता है उधर, सुंदर. एंड देयर इज अ ब्यूटीफुल डीटी, राइट? वन ऑफ आवर लोकल फ्रेंड had taken there. And then we stayed in one village. और वो व्यक्ति बॉम्बे में बहुत साल रुके थे. उनका घर देखना था, पुराना घर जिस प्रकार से बना हुआ है, राइट? उधर का जो खाना, उसका जो स्वाद था. They don't have big masala. It doesn't look fancy. It looks very simple. But उसमें जो दम प्राण होता है ना उस खाने में, एक अलग लेवल का प्राण होता है. लेकिन I bet you, if you don't take yourself and your children from childhood, I remember giving a girl cow's fresh milk, गरम गरम इलायची डालकर जब ये दूध दिया गया, because she was habituated drinking the pocket milk, the Amul milk. तो उसके मुंह से क्या शब्द निकाला गाय का दूध पीने के बाद? It smells. She the sample. She is simply a sample showing what is the condition of our own people. गाय की पूजा करेंगे, गाय की मूर्ति बनाकर पूजा करेंगे, लेकिन गाय का जो अमृत फ्रेश है वो पीने में कितनी समस्या हो जाती है, राइट? सो दिस कॉन्शियस टेररिज्म, सेपरेटिंग आवरसेल्फ फ्रॉम द भूमि देवी, जमीन से, राइट? देयर इज वन स्मॉल बेबी हियर, द टीचर्स डॉटर. वो 8 महीने की है, वो छोटी सी है. मैं इसको पहली बार देखा, 8 महीने के बाद आया था. What does she do? Every day she plays in the soil. उसके आजू बाजू में कोई टाइल नहीं है, कोई व्हाइट मार्बल नहीं है, कोई जूते पहनकर घूमने वाले नहीं है. मट्टी के साथ में रहने के कारण उसके त्वचा, उसकी चमड़ी, उसका जो स्किन है, हर स्किन इज ग्लोइंग, शाइनिंग, बिकॉज द सॉइल से जितना संबंध होगा, water, soil, and then stars, when you see them, your Annamaya Kosh and Pranamaya Kosh become solidified, very strong and powerful, right? वहां नक्षत्रों को देखते हो. In Kannada, we call it as तारे, नक्षत्र. And actors लोग उनको मिनुगु तारे बोलते हैं, shining stars, right? So what happens? This Jordan Peterson, very interesting, he made a very interesting point. He said even the greatest of the king in their entire life did not get to see a naked women, even though they could offer, they had the facility. Nahi tha. Now today, the child who's the age between 12 to 13, within 10 to 15 days, he gets to see in social media what the biggest powerful, the kings who were like hardcore sense enjoyers, even they would never get to see that. तो सोचो कैसी विकृति होगी, कितनी समस्या होगी उन बच्चों के लिए. And he said how dangerous it is. But when you see the stars, 2 days back, there is a telescope here. We were able to see the Jupiter, Guru. क्या shine हो रहा था. We were able to see Mangal Graha. We were able to see Shani Graha. And close to Chandra, there was Shukra and there was Buddha also. और इतने सारे नक्षत्र when you are seeing the space and when you are seeing the soil, you are walking around, आपको भूख अपने आप लग जाती है, राइट? इसीलिए हर एक भारतीय संध्या के समय, सुबह 6 बजे से पहले या उसके बाद में, दोपहर के समय और शाम के समय, what do they do? They would take some water. वो जल को लेकर सूर्य के द्वारा, सूर्य नारायण को, यानी कि सूर्य में निवास, the personality who is residing in the sun, the Paramatma, the Lord, offering that water as gratitude through Surya Dev, Surya himself, their own ancestors, Krishna would do it every day, their ancestors, and that water would come back to the soil. This was done by lakhs and lakhs of people. On the battlefield of Kurukshetra, just before the battle would begin, the entire army would do that. And the battle would conclude as the sun would set down so that they can offer water. देखो कितना very simple act. And what does the sun do? Sun is basically moving, right? From even within the eastern direction, he goes south to west, Uttarayana and Dakshinayana. So you're basically moving. Your offering of the water is also moving. So what happened? In that 6 months, there is a change, different part of the Bhumi. Twice a day, a direction is also changed. इतने लाखों लोग consciously, unconsciously drip irrigation करते थे. The purpose was spiritual, but the benefit was even Bhumi Devi would be benefited by this surcharged water, and therefore Srimad Bhagavatam explains. What does it explains? The glance of the Lord. The glance of the Lord was there on this land, therefore the land was producing limitless resources. यही तो glance है भगवान का, जल प्रसाद उसको मिलता था. So therefore, when there was an integral part was there, the Annadata, the farmer was called as Annadata, almost calling him close to the representation of the Supreme Lord. भगवान की जो पोषण शक्ति है, विश्वम भर, विश्व को भरण करने वाला, where would we experience? We would experience that through the farmer. Therefore, if we become conscious, at least twice a month in our life, at least twice in a year in our life, just like people run to Vrindavan, run to Mayapur, run to Ayodhya, which they should do, no doubt. But on the way running to these places, can you stop and visit? Connect yourself with the farmer. They don't need your encouragement. You are nobody to encourage them. No, to learn the art of life, right? And therefore, Lal Bahadur Shastri had made that famous statement, Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. Right? Kisan आपको नरिश करता है and Jawan नरिश करने वालों को रक्षा करता है. If you follow this principle, you are basically, what are we doing? Farming and cow protection means you are actually substantially worshipping Krishna Balaram forever and forever, worshipping there in every aspect of life. Whether you have the opportunity to go to Krishna Balaram or you don't have the opportunity to go to Krishna Balaram, but you are eternally worshipping so that more and more and more people get benefited of connecting to the farmers, eating fresh food. I try to eat less in Mumbai, but अभी उन्होंने बहुत गरम गरम यहाँ का चावल है, यहाँ चावल नहीं उगता, यहाँ की जो रोटी बनती है वो रिट्रीवेट कर रही है, grown by the farmers, cooked by the farmer wives, in the wooden fire, That taste you can never ever imagine. It is simply out of this world. Connect yourself and grow yourself so that you can contribute in the growth of people, including the farmers. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments?
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Very interesting conversation. Uh, in fact, we were in a farm today itself with a group of 50 children in Govinda Eco Village, and there were children from different parts of the world, from Singapore, UK, Australia, India, and different parts of India also. And we took them to a farm to pluck nimbus, lemons. And I think all of them saw lemons hanging on the shrubs for the first time in their life. And differentiating between a ripe lemon and a raw lemon was something they learned. And in fact, in the night, you know uh, we ordered bhakri roti and the local dal. It was quite nice, but we didn't serve it to the children because we weren't too sure whether they would like eating it. But some of the volunteers had it, and it was quite refreshing. So, Proji, the question is that today a lot of us, get attracted to professions which are high paying, which is a very critical factor of deciding your occupation. So farming doesn't seem to be too attractive because money is an important factor in deciding your profession too. So how does one encourage people to move in that direction?
You don't have to move abruptly suddenly. There is no need to take that step, because again it is an abrupt, it is an artificial. But being conscious and aware of this, right? Reconnecting. There are large number. India still has large population of farmers, right? So if you are allowing the farmers to farm themselves, that itself is a great achievement. Rather than you becoming a farmer, I becoming a farmer, it will not simply, it will cost. What will happen when a city person becomes a farmer? He makes farm into city. He needs all kinds of facilities, right? He makes a fort. If you come to the farmland here, people don't have, you know fence after every land is over. They know, okay, this is my land, there are some issues, there are some problems, but they are operating like that because they've grown up there only, they've stayed there only. So therefore, again, being conscious, going there regularly, just like what you took, but in a smaller group where they interact, communicate, you know, and actually help to build more and more water bodies, excavate well rather than bore well. So what will happen? That will keep the land fertile. And then today there is a Goshala here. The teacher Vasudev Sudprabhu, we can invite him once. He had gone. What they are doing. This group of people run by the RSS people, they basically train the farmers based upon what the actual farmers need. When a fertilizer company organizes the farmers conference, they give them what the farmers are supposed to benefit to the fertilizers company, because they are basically commercial. तो करते हो conference, परंतु at the end of the day the farmer becomes like that smoker, right? Once you start smoking, you can never give up smoking, right? There's a different subject only. Other day we were discussing with school children that how the whole concept of feminism, original feminism concept, was started by the cigarette industry only. He was a Sigmund Freud's nephew, who was considered as one of the greatest propagandists. When he saw male are smoking cigarette, female are not smoking, he said 50% of our business is suffering. So how do we convince the women also to smoke? And that is what they talked about. Our patriarchal society has been abusive of women. They've caused so much of violence to them. If women have to stand up and show their confidence, here is the cigarette. It protects your shape, It makes you strong. It makes you confidence. And people fell for it, right? So therefore, what they're doing, they're basically training people. First 2 days training, then 7 days training. They take 30 farmers, they train them in science of farming. And he had gone to explain the farmer knew the art of seeing the star and recognizing, okay, today this star has risen and it is best to plant these seeds. Like if we have diabetic problem, methi is a very good medicine, but not any methi. The methi has to be planted on particular nakshatra, harvested on particular nakshatra, and some curing has to be done on particular nakshatra, and that methi becomes very powerful medicine for diabetic. So it was his talk on deciding what are the benefits of 27 nakshatra which comes every month, which crop has to be planted, what to deal with them. तो उसका टेस्ट ही अलग बन जाता है पूरा, right? I remember talking to one doctor, I forgot the particular month. I will ask him. On a particular month, if there is a Shravana Nakshatra, during the Shravana Nakshatra, when the moon is lit up, I forgot the month, you have to hold your hand for 5 to 10 minutes, looking towards the moon on particular nakshatra, right? When you do that, then what happens? If anybody get beaten by the scorpion, and that hand which is cured through that particular nakshatra and particular month, you place that hand where the scorpion has bitten, it has the power of healing herb. And if the hand is also connected to Hasta Nakshatra, it's another science which the farmers easily practiced and followed. They would never go through, sudden outburst of the weather. Yes, the weather you can't predict, but at least they knew 60-70% of predictability in regards to weather because they knew all the harvest. Now, what does the farmers has been taught? A farmer has been taught to see what is the market is talking about. एक कांदा चाहिए तो कांदा लगाओ, आलू चाहिए तो आलू लगाओ. When you plant everything based upon the market doesn't decide your crop. The weather decides your crop. So that science has completely disappeared. It is becoming more and more obscure. So this sensitivity, right? Like you said, we don't know whether they will eat or not. Yes, certainly they will not eat. They will eat rotten white bread only, sandwich only. That is their misfortune. That is how they are conditioned. So therefore, to recondition means, those who are smaller, younger, when they start conditioning themselves, then they'll say, no, I don't want this. Because what is this? Yes, healthy bread is okay. But you don't know what you are eating. तो ये जो जानकारी है केवल बुद्धि के द्वारा नहीं, लेकिन conditioning oneself, when we condition oneself to that, then it becomes very easy, very normal. Like one of our student, she grew up in outside India, but the parents raised her as if she was living in a village. Every day without fail, hot chapatis. Same. Bajra roti, ज्वारी रोटी, खपली रोटी, गरम गरम चावल, दाल और घी. मैंने देखा है उनको. Now she has come to study in one of the cities and she is shocked to see the kind of upbringing parents have given to their daughters. She is shocked. That too in India, living close. to the holy places in northern India. What a tragedy. He said, who will deal with this tragedy? 8-8 दिन के लिए स्नान नहीं करना, कुछ भी खाना, anything consuming. Even if you are a meat eater, right, there was a rule for eating meat. They would manage differently. So therefore, when you study for a cultural perspective, vegetarianism and a local non-vegetarianism, not the factory non-vegetarianism. The local controlled non-vegetarianism is anytime better than the vegan of the Western world. It's a factory-centric. भारत के दृष्टिकोण से, when I see from an Indian perspective, however our society functioned, was a brilliant, profound way it was functioning. And therefore, even the great spiritualists never went around making everybody vegetarian. For your information, near Udupi, there were great sadhus, all ate at mathas. But they never went around the fishermen in that area, okay, stop everything. They gave them Hari Bhakti, they gave them spirituality, but never focused on trying to change their food habit, because whatever food habit they had, it was all controlled and disciplined. The vegetarians did not make a big noise of being a vegetarian, and a non-vegetarian did not make a big noise of being a non-vegetarian. It was very disciplined and controlled. So therefore, at the end of the day, if you choose, people choose, no, it's somebody will grow. I don't want to get into it. And that's what this UN was discussing in regards to food security. What will happen food security in 2050? You'll have big money, but your money will not even fetch you proper grain. इसलिए प्लास्टिक वाला बनेगा, खाना आपको प्लास्टिक वाला खाना पड़ेगा. It looks like a rice, but it will not have the substance of rice. It will look like a mango, but it will not have the taste of mango. So there is the abundance of so-called food without having the substance of food. So therefore, people have to make that choice. It's a battle of substance against shadow, right? And therefore, being a spiritualist is very easy. We can just forget everything and just focus on Krishna. But we forget what Krishna focused on. We'll take one more question, last question.
Prabhuji, is there a difference between a farmer who's technologically not up to date versus a farmer who is more in touch with technology? The reason why I'm asking you this question is there's a company which has been started by a group of farmers who are using satellite technology to predict many things, and they've been funded also. So what they have done is they have possibly got farming and commerce together using technology. So do you think this is something which we should encourage more?
Again, see, we cannot be idealistic at the same time. We cannot be brutally practical. It has to be, again, the entire concept of farming. Again, it is about talking about, if you follow, you can use certain machine, very discreetly. What it requires is the education. The technology savvy farmers require the traditional education. The traditional farmers require some connection to technology. So therefore, rejecting either one of them for the other is not a very bright idea. When you are in a war, then you don't care for rule. इसे पहले war कर लो, बाद में देखा. Like the Pandavas in those 18 days. In fact, they broke more rules compared to the Kauravas so that they can establish proper rule-centric society. Right. They broke many rules. If they had followed the rule, no, we nothing, whatever happens, we are not going to break any rule. So they would not be there to establish dharmic rule, and the Kurus would have used adharma and destroyed the dharmic Pandavas, never to rise again. So therefore, it is not black and white. Both parties has to have a dialogue. What are your challenges? Huh? What is your this is we have to discuss on that. So there is no harm with technology, but technology again should not completely take us away. Like I was talking to one NGO group's chairman. They started with a different purpose. Now the educated people coming there, it is becoming more system driven rather than society, relationship, and compassion driven.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. There's a question in the chat box. Would you like to take it about veganism?
I answered. There is a talk also on veganism. In India, for India, veganism is very dangerous. Not only veganism takes away, most of the vegans, unfortunately, are socialist by nature. There is a left ideology in veganism. And India, when you become a vegan, you are not necessarily connected to your family roots. Consciously or consciously, you undermine. Right. I remember listening to one guy. He was speaking about veganism, glorifying and blasting vegetarianism. He said vegetarianism took a superlative, ideas. They thought that they are superior. Where did you learn from that? I grew up with a vegetarian. I was a non-vegetarian. Entire India worked with. I was giving an example. The Brahmanas never undermined in regards to your food habits. There was no conflict in regards to food habits. So therefore, for India, if the veganism is going to destroy your foundational culture, it is better to be a non-vegetarian, catching your fish on your own on the ocean bank, eating it, not causing a huge chains of slaughterhouses. Right? It worked properly. Bharadraj Rishi, read in the Ramayana, he provided meat for the army of Bharat because some of them were meat eaters. Right? So anything which becomes too activism, any activism, whether it is activism of veganism, whether it is activism of vegetarianism, whether it is activism of spirituality, it is dangerous to the society. Why? Because it dislodges the proper balance.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Very interesting. And please enjoy your kapli roti and local vegetables. Hare Krishna. Thank you.